Did you know that the state of your gums might actually be a flashing warning light for the rest of your body, specifically your heart?
Welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. Stay informed with quick, easy-to-listen summaries of our latest articles, perfect for when you're on the go. No reading required. Subscribe for free at Mercola.com for the latest health insights.
Looking for trusted health wisdom you can hold in your hands? Discover the life-changing books of Dr. Mercola at joyhousepublishing.com. These titles bring decades of natural health research into practical steps for better energy, stronger immunity, and clearer thinking. Take charge of your health with guidance rooted in science and experience. Visit joyhousepublishing.com now and claim your bonuses while they are available. Hello and welcome to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. I am honestly thrilled to be here with you today because we are looking at a topic that, I have to admit, completely flipped my perspective on my morning routine. We are doing a deep dive into oral health, but please stick with us. We aren't talking about which electric toothbrush to buy or the best flossing technique. We're looking at a fascinating piece of analysis that connects low lycopene intake to a higher risk of severe gum disease.
It's great to be here, and you are absolutely right to frame it that way. This topic, it seems small on the surface. We tend to think of our gums as this, isolated geography.
Yeah, it's just tissue.
Just a bit of pink tissue holding the teeth in place. But the mission for this deep dive is to really shatter that isolation. We're looking at how a very specific nutrient deficiency, low lycopene, doesn't just hurt your smile. It signals a much deeper systemic issue within the body's cellular environment.
Exactly. I think most of us, myself included, grew up with this very mechanical view of dentistry. If you have gum issues, it means you're lazy, you've got to brush, or maybe you ate too much candy. It's a hygiene failure.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're looking at here is pointing a finger at something else entirely. It's pointing at intake, specifically lycopene intake. So let's unpack this. The headline finding is that low lycopene intake is tied to a higher risk of severe gum disease.
Mm.
When I first read that, I had to pause. Why is it singling out lycopene? Why not vitamin C or calcium?
That is the crucial question, isn't it? It's fascinating that the analysis focuses so sharply on this one compound. Lycopene is a carotenoid. It's that bright red pigment you see in tomatoes, watermelon, pink grapefruit.
Right.
It's a powerful antioxidant. Usually when we hear about gum health, we hear about scrubbing away plaque. But here, the research is drawing a direct line between the input, the lycopene you're getting or not getting, and the outcome, which is severe gum disease.
So it's suggesting that the structural integrity of your gums is actually dependent on the raw materials you provide your body.
Precisely. It suggests that your gums aren't just there to be cleaned. They are living tissues that need to be fed. If your intake of lycopene is low, the analysis suggests you're at a higher risk. It frames gum disease not just as a hygiene failure, but as a nutritional deficit.
Right.
And what's interesting here is the specificity. It isn't just eat vegetables. In fact, we have to be careful with vegetables because raw ones can be hard to digest, but we'll get to that. It specifically highlights low lycopene. This implies that this specific nutrient plays a role in tissue defense that we can't just swap out with something else.
It's like trying to build a brick wall without enough mortar and then being surprised when the wall starts to wobble.
That's a great way to put it.
You can clean the bricks all you want, but if the mortar, the internal support, isn't there,
Right.
the wall fails.
That is a very apt analogy, and it really shifts the burden of responsibility. Or maybe empowers is a better word. It shifts the focus from just the bathroom sink to the dinner plate.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder how many people are scrubbing away at their gums until they hurt, trying to fix a problem that's actually stemming from a deficiency in their diet.
I would wager quite a few.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to think about, actually. You're doing everything right externally, but internally the tank is empty. But let's push deeper here, because if we just stopped at eat more cooked tomatoes for better gums,
Yeah.
that would be a nice tip for a health magazine, but not a deep dive.
No.
The analysis goes much further. It explains why this connection exists. And the key word here, the mechanism that ties it all together, is inflammation.
Yes. This is the pivot point of the entire analysis. If you miss this, you miss the whole point of cellular wisdom. It explicitly states that severe gum disease reflects chronic inflammation.
I want to linger on that word reflects for a second. Severe gum disease reflects chronic inflammation. It sounds almost poetic, like a metaphor. But in a biological sense, it's actually kind of alarming, isn't it?
It is. Think about what a reflection is. It's an image of something else. When you look in a mirror, you aren't seeing a new person. You're seeing yourself.
Okay.
This analysis is telling us that the mouth is a mirror. If you see severe gum disease, redness, swelling, pocketing, you aren't just looking at a local infection caused by a trapped popcorn kernel. You are looking at a reflection of a fire that is burning throughout the entire body.
A fire.
That fire is chronic inflammation.
Okay, so let me see if I can frame this for the listener.
Yeah.
If I'm understanding this correctly, the gum disease is almost like the smoke detector going off in your house.
That is the perfect analogy.
The smoke detector isn't the fire. The smoke detector is just the noisy, annoying plastic thing on the ceiling telling you there's a fire somewhere else.
Exactly. And that is a critical distinction to make. If your smoke detector goes off, what do? You don't just take the batteries out to silence it.
Right.
You don't just put a piece of tape over the light. You look for the fire. But in dentistry, and often in medicine, we treat the gums topically. We scrape, we floss, we use mouthwash. What I mean is, we're essentially just fanning smoke away from the detector without asking, why is the house getting so hot?
Right. We're silencing the alarm, but leaving the fire burning in the basement.
And the analysis is very clear on this.
Mm-hmm.
Severe gum disease reflects chronic inflammation. It is a symptom of a systemic state. The low lycopene intake contributes to that state because lycopene is a potent antioxidant. It helps quench that fire. When you have low intake, the fire burns hotter, and the gums are one of the first places where the damage becomes visible.
That is wild.
Yeah.
It completely changes how I look at a bleeding gum or a sensitive tooth. It's like a dashboard engine light in your car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when the check engine light comes on, you don't just get out and polish the headlights. You assume something is wrong deep inside the machinery.
And yet, in modern healthcare, we have completely compartmentalized the body. We have a doctor for the engine, the cardiologist, and a completely different doctor for the dashboard light, the dentist.
And they don't talk.
They rarely talk to each other. This research challenges that separation. It is saying, no, this is all one system. If the gums are inflamed, the body is inflamed. And if the body is inflamed, we have to look at what inputs are missing. In this case, it points to lycopene.
I want to dig into the why just a little bit more. Why the gums? Why not the elbow? Why is the mouth such a sensitive indicator for this lycopene deficiency?
That is a fascinating physiological question. I mean, think about the environment of the mouth. It is constantly under siege.
Right. Eating, breathing.
You're eating, you're breathing, you have bacteria. It is a high-stress environment for your cells. The gum tissue, the gingiva, has a very high turnover rate. It needs to repair itself constantly. When a tissue needs to repair itself rapidly, it requires a steady supply of antioxidants to manage the oxidative stress of that repair process. Okay.
Lycopene accumulates in these tissues to provide that protection. If you don't have enough lycopene, the oxidative stress overwhelms the repair mechanism and the tissue breaks down. That breakdown is what we call gum disease.
So because the mouth is working so hard, it runs out of supplies faster.
Essentially, yes. It is the canary in the coal mine. It fails first because it is under the most pressure.
That makes total sense. Okay, so we have established that the gums are the dashboard light. But let's talk about the engine trouble, because the research doesn't just say inflammation and leave it at that. It gets specific about the consequences. It mentions that this inflammation links to broader health risks, and these aren't minor risks.
No, they certainly are not. The risks it lists are significant. We aren't talking about minor inconveniences or bad breath. The research explicitly links this condition, this low lycopene inflamed gum state, to heart disease and diabetes.
Heart disease and diabetes. I mean, that is a massive jump from remember to floss.
It feels like a massive jump if you view the body as separate parts.
But if you view the body through the lens of cellular wisdom, as we try to do here, it makes perfect sense. Let's break it down. If severe gum disease is a reflection of chronic inflammation, as we've established, then that same chronic inflammation isn't just staying in your mouth. Inflammation is mediated by chemicals in the blood cytokines, immune cells. They travel.
So the same blood that is circulating through your inflamed gums is circulating through your heart.
Exactly. There is no magical barrier at the neck that stops the blood from the head going to the heart. If that blood is carrying inflammatory markers, it is affecting your endothelial lining, the inner walls of your arteries.
Okay.
That is a primary driver of heart disease. When the endothelium becomes inflamed, it becomes sticky, it accumulates plaque, it loses its flexibility. And simultaneously, that inflammation is affecting your insulin sensitivity, which is the mechanism behind diabetes.
It's amazing to think about. We often hear about plaque on teeth and plaque in arteries, and we think of them as totally different things. But you're saying the underlying process, the inflammation that allows that buildup, is shared.
The biochemical environment that encourages one often encourages the other. So the low lycopene intake creates an environment where inflammation can thrive. That inflammation shows up in the gums as disease, but it's simultaneously, silently working away at your heart and your metabolic health.
That is the logical chain this analysis presents. It's a strong link, to use this phrasing. It connects the dots between a nutrient deficiency and some major systemic failures.
It connects the dots perfectly, and it serves as a powerful reminder that biology is interconnected. You cannot have a healthy heart in an inflamed body, and you likely won't have healthy gums in an inflamed body either. They are all expressions of the same cellular environment.
It really makes the term gum disease feel a bit inadequate, doesn't it?
It does.
It sounds so local, like a toe fungus or a blister. Yeah. But what we are describing is really a whole body inflammation event that just happens to be visible in the mouth.
That is a very astute way to put it. The research mentions that this is not just tooth loss. And I think that is a key phrase to analyze.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because obviously nobody wants to lose their teeth. That's a valid fear. It's cosmetic, it's functional.
Of course. But the analysis seems to be saying, hey, tooth loss is actually the least of your worries here.
Correct. We are conditioned to fear the cosmetic or functional loss of teeth. And while that is serious, it affects nutrition, speech, confidence. The research is trying to elevate our perspective.
It's reframing the consequence. If you have low lycopene intake leading to severe gum disease, the tooth loss is the visible damage. The invisible damage, the heart disease risk, the diabetes risk, is potentially life-threatening.
It's like worrying about the paint peeling on your house while the foundation is cracking.
Yes. The paint peeling is ugly, and you want to fix it. But the cracking foundation is what makes the house unsafe to live in. The analysis is urging us to look at the foundation. It's asking us to consider that the same biological process, destroying the soft tissue in your mouth, collagen breakdown, immune overreaction, is likely damaging the delicate vessels of your heart.
It's the same process.
It's the same process. It's the same inflammation. And it stems, at least in part, from that low lycopene intake.
This is a bit of an aha moment for me. I think about how many times I've heard people joke about bleeding gums. Oh, I floss too hard, or I have sensitive gums. We normalize it. We treat it as a minor annoyance.
They do.
But if we take this seriously, we should be treating that symptom with the same urgency as, say, high blood pressure or high cholesterol.
Absolutely. It changes the conversation entirely. Instead of, I need to visit the dentist, it becomes, I need to evaluate my anti-inflammatory inputs. I need to look at my nutrition. I need to see if I am getting enough of the nutrients, like lycopene, that my body needs to dampen that fire.
Let's touch on that nutrition piece for a moment. We've mentioned lycopene a dozen times. In the context of this intake, what should the listener be visualizing? We aren't talking about raw salads here, right? I know we have to be careful with bioavailability.
That is an excellent point to raise. Bioavailability is key. Lycopene is tightly bound in the plant fiber. If you just eat a raw tomato, you don't actually absorb very much of it.
Yeah.
The body has to work too hard to extract it, to really get the benefit, to get that high intake that the research suggests is protective. You want cooked sources.
So cooking releases the lycopene.
Exactly. Cooking breaks down the cell walls and releases the lycopene so your body can actually use it. Think of tomato paste, cooked tomato sauce, or stewed tomatoes. And critically, lycopene is fat-soluble. You need to consume it with a healthy fat for it to be absorbed into your bloodstream.
Right. And when we say healthy fat, just to be clear for our listeners, we are not talking about canola oil or soybean oil.
Correct. No.
We want to avoid those industrial seed oils entirely.
Correct. Those oils are inflammatory in themselves, which would defeat the whole purpose. We'd be looking at something stable, like butter or tallow, or perhaps naturally occurring fats in the meal. But the key is that combination. Heat plus healthy fat equals absorption. That is how you correct the low intake problem.
I love that clarification. It's not just about gnawing on a raw vegetable. It's about preparing the food so your cells can actually access the wisdom inside it.
That is the beauty of cellular health. The body is incredibly complex, but its needs are often quite fundamental. It needs specific molecules to function. When those molecules are missing, when we have low intake systems, start to fail. The gums fail. The cardiovascular system comes under stress. The metabolic system struggles. It is a domino effect.
I want to pause here and ask a question that I think the listener might be wondering. We're talking about low lycopene intake. So we're saying that the absence of the good stuff is causing the problem.
Is it fair to say that adding the lycopene back in reverses the issue? Or is this just a preventative measure? That's a nuanced point. The research focuses on the risk correlation. Low intake equals high risk. Biologically speaking, restoring the nutrient levels helps the body modulate that inflammation. It's like giving the firefighters their hoses back.
Okay.
Can they put out the fire? Yes. Will the burnt wood immediately turn back into a pristine house? Not necessarily. The damage might need other interventions, but you certainly can't stop the fire if you don't restore the water supply. Restoring lycopene intake is about restoring the body's capacity to handle inflammation.
That makes sense. It's about arming your cells.
Right.
So let's bring this back to the listener. You're driving to work, or maybe you're washing dishes, and you're listening to this. What does this mean for you right now?
It means you need to pay attention to your mouth in a new way. When you look in the mirror tonight to brush your teeth, realize you are looking at a readout of your internal health.
The dashboard.
The dashboard. If you see signs of trouble redness, swelling, bleeding, don't just brush harder. Don't just buy a stronger, harsher mouthwash that kills everything in sight. Ask yourself, what is my body missing? This analysis specifically flags low lycopene. Is that a gap in your nutrition? Do you eat cooked tomato products or watermelon? Because that gap could be leaving the door open for chronic inflammation.
And remember, that inflammation isn't just annoying your gums. It's knocking on the door of your heart. It's messing with your blood sugar management. It's all connected.
That is the takeaway. The mouth is not Vegas. What happens in the mouth does not stay in the mouth.
Chuckles. I love that.
It is an integral part of your systemic physiology.
The mouth is not Vegas.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. But seriously,
Yeah.
It's a sobering thought. We have separated these things for so long, dental versus medical, that we forget our cells don't know the difference.
The cells certainly do not know the difference. They only know what environment they are in. They only know if they are inflamed or not inflamed. They only know if they have the nutrients they need, like lycopene, or if they are starving for them. What we've looked at today is essentially a plea for integration. It is asking us to reintegrate our understanding of oral health back into general health.
So let's try to summarize this chain of logic one last time, just to lock it in, because there were a few steps here, and I want to make sure we have the full picture.
Let's trace the path from beginning to end. Step 1 is the input, or the lack thereof. Low lycopene intake. This is the starting risk factor. The body is missing a key antioxidant defense.
Right. We start with a deficiency. The shield is down.
Step 2. This deficiency correlates with severe gum disease. The tissue in the mouth begins to break down because it can't defend itself against the daily stress of the oral environment.
That's the visible symptom, the check engine light flashing red.
Step 3. We understand that this gum disease is actually a reflection of chronic inflammation. It is not an isolated infection. It is a sign of a body-wide inflammatory state.
The fire burning in the house.
And finally, step 4. This chronic inflammation links to broader, serious health risks, specifically heart disease and diabetes. The fire spreads to the structural beams of the house.
The collapsing foundation.
Exactly. So while it starts with lycopene and gums, it ends with the heart and metabolism. It is a complete circuit.
When you lay it out like that, it seems so obvious. But it's amazing how often we miss it. We treat the symptom, the bleeding gums, and we ignore the signal, the inflammation.
We do. And in a world of information overload, it is easy to miss these connections. That is why critical thinking is so essential. We have to question the assumption that body parts operate independently. We have to look for the patterns. This analysis provides a very clear pattern.
It really does. And it empowers us, doesn't it? Because if we know the link exists, we can do something about it. We aren't helpless. If we know that low intake is the risk, the solution, at least in part, is to address that intake.
Knowledge is only valuable when it is understood and applied. Understanding that your gums are a window into your heart health is a powerful piece of knowledge. It transforms a core oral care into a health monitoring strategy.
Yeah.
It makes that 2 minutes in front of the mirror perfectly meaningful.
I think that's what I love most about these deep dives. We start with a headline that sounds like a dry medical journal statistic. Low lycopene gum disease. And we end up realizing it's a roadmap for total body wellness.
It is, and it reinforces that the body is resilient, but it has requirements. It signals us when things are wrong. We just have to be willing to listen to the signal and interpret it correctly.
So as we wrap up this exploration, I want to leave you with something to think about. We've talked a lot about the gums as a signal. We've talked about the check engine light.
It's a crucial concept to grasp.
It is. But here's where my brain goes next. If our gums are signaling heart and blood sugar risks based on a specific nutrient intake like lycopene, what else is our body trying to tell us?
That is the provocative question.
Right. If we are ignoring the bleeding gums because we think it's just gums, what other minor symptoms are we ignoring? Is that dry skin just dry skin, or is it a message about fatty acids? Is that afternoon fatigue just a lack of coffee, or is it a cellular cry for help regarding your mitochondria?
We are constantly receiving data from our own biology. The challenge is, are we literate enough to read it? This research suggests that when it comes to lycopene and gums, many of us haven't been reading the message clearly. We've been looking at the finger pointing at the moon and missing the moon itself.
It really makes you want to do a full system check, doesn't it? Stop ignoring the little things, because as we learned today, the little things are often reflections of the big things.
And the big things are what determine our longevity and quality of life. Ignoring the small signals is a luxury we can't really afford if we want true cellular wisdom.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a true eye-opener. I'm definitely going to be paying a lot more attention to what's going on in the mirror tomorrow morning and maybe checking if I have any cooked tomatoes in the kitchen.
As should we all. It's always fascinating to connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to Dr. Mercola's Cellular Wisdom. See you in the next episode.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe now and click the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.